remove this gauge cluster and all this dash stuff so we can get to the gauge cluster, so that we can take out the gauges and I can cut a new panel for all my new gauges that are coming to go into it. We're putting a digital or a GPS speedometer in here that works off GPS, since we went to a turbo 350 transmission instead of the 700 R4. And we're also going to be putting in like standalone, just a whole standalone system for all the gauges, for the temperature, oil pressure, the battery gauge, and the fuel gauge. I'm going to put all new ones in this truck. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see what we can get going here in a minute. It's kind of cold. It's probably like 10 degrees in my shop. I just built the fire, so hopefully it gets warm, but that's where we're at. Oh, this is going to be fun. This is a non-tilting column. Probably work it out of there, maybe. Push that down. Gotta unhook all this light stuff, so there we go. There we go, got that piece out. They need to come out anyway. I switched over to a floor shifter. We don't need that crap in there. I just gotta find the little rubber piece that goes back in there. What do we need here? It's like 5/16. I'll go find that in my toolbox and we'll get this pulled out real quick. I sped this up. It's kind of boring and just pulling all the bolts out and all that stuff, so you guys just hang with me for a minute and we'll get past this boring part and get into something more cool. Okay, so I got this all traced out here. That's for my dash piece. I just set it on there and traced around the best I could. Now I'm going to cut it out. I think it's a little big, so I'm just going to cut it on my lines, and then I'm going to take it back in the truck and fit it up to the dash and make sure it's all going to fit where it needs to. And then I can cut the finished piece out of a piece of diamond plate or polished aluminum, whatever I decide to do. So I'm not going to bore you guys with that, so stay tuned and I'll get this cut out real quick. Alright everybody, so here's my dash piece. I'll clean the edges up, of course, because they're a little bit off. But once I get this up in there, sorry, it's going to be shaky maybe because I'm trying to hold my camera and do all this at the same time. That piece sits right, basically right where it's supposed to. I have to add a 1/4 inch on one corner of it. Oh man, what a pain. So right there, that sits over all the mounts. See if we can get a better view up in there. I poked some holes in the corners where they line up, where the bolts can drop into them. Right there. So that's going to be the shape of it. And then I'm going to build some little spacers on the top to bring it out. I'll bring it out to the face on my dash bezel once I get it all done. And I may have to give a slight curvature to the edge of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all mocked up on a piece of diamond plate, and we're going to cut it out and see how she fits. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so here's my piece of diamond plate. Here's my template that I built. I am going to put this on there, trace it out, and then I'll take my grinder and we'll just cut that out. And then we'll use probably my jigsaw with a metal blade to cut all this out here. But we can cut the majority of it with just with a sawzall or a grinder. So we'll see what I can bring out that'll work the best. So stay tuned for that, and I'll get back with you guys in a minute. This went quite smooth. I had to do a little bit of changes to it after I got it all cut out, but I just used an old piece of diamond plate, so it made it so it was a lot easier to work with versus using a good piece and tearing it all up right from the get-go. And I can use this again on another truck later for a template. So that's why I did it this way. Alright, I got her all laid in there now that it's trimmed. It looks good. There's no gaps around it or anything, and it has room to move either direction, and it won't show past the bezel here. But I've got to shim the bottom of that out to the top and maybe put a little teeny tiny curvature to it, and it'll be good to go. So here in a couple days I'll have those gauges and we'll get those in. But I'm gonna get that diamond plate all polished up, see if it'll polish, and if it's too hard to polish, I'm just gonna go buy another little piece of a sheet that's nice and shiny, and I'll just recut this and use that as a template. So that's probably about all I'm gonna get done for right now. All right, everybody, so I started this gauge cluster build a little bit ago. Finally went and got me a freaking hole saw today so I could cut the holes for the smaller gauges. And I still, right down in this area here, I've still got to shim the bottom of it out so it'll be flush in there and flat, but you guys can kind of get it. Let me move out of light a little so you can see it a little better. You guys will get how it's going to be. Got all my gauges in there. I still got to run the wires through the firewall, and I'm just putting, this will be all standalone away from the computer. The speedometer that we picked for this, it actually works off of the GPS, so I'll pull it out one more time probably and clean it up a little bit, and then we'll put it all in and hook it all up, and then you guys can see it all work on my next video. So stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.